It's David coming to you today from Moran State Park on top of, I forgot the name of the mountain here, but it's in the San Juan Islands on Orcas Island. And it's just an absolutely lovely day today. So I hope you're having a wonderful day as well. Uh, this is Lesson 3 review and Lesson 4 preview for MSOM 601. And let's start with Lesson 3 review. This week, one of the most important things that we talk about this week is the discussion board that talks about correctly identifying the problem. And this particular lesson was all about making sure that you're solving the right problem and problem solving. And so the first discussion question talked about the importance of correctly identifying the problem. I can probably give you way too many examples from my past in business where we undertook a particular project and didn't spend the time necessary to correctly identify the problem, and we wasted a lot of time. We developed solutions for things that really were was not the problem, and so the time that you need is really magnified here. And again, too often in business today, we like to get to the solution in a hurry because time is money, right? Well, one of the key things that you'll see is that you really need to make sure that you spend the necessary time to do this. And I appreciated the discussions and the examples that you provided this week on that topic. Discussion 2 really talked about a process. And again, I really focus a lot on the red model, but this is another process that a lot of people in sometimes more complex situations, but certainly it applies to ones that aren't as complex, can use a model called the is not model. And you can really do some searching on the internet and find some great examples of where and how this is used if you haven't done it yourself. One of the things that I used to do quite a bit in business was similar to the is not model, and those are decision trees. And those aren't necessarily problem solving, but they are problem preempting type of exercises where what you can do is develop this decision tree that gives you different options. If someone answers yes to a question, you go down this side of the tree. If someone answers no to a question, you go down that side of the tree. And that's really, as I mentioned, preemptive style of problem solving, so that you're fully aware of what's going to happen, at least what potentially could happen going forward. So those two discussion questions this week really focused on problem identification. And then finally, the application this week came from Amina's story again, because, there was one big problem. Amina needed heart surgery. If she didn't, she was going to die. But in the story, you're presented with a lot of different issues that had to be solved. Tribal elder acceptance, organizational acceptance. Can you imagine what it's like in a theater of war? Just getting the approval to take an Iraqi girl out of that particular theater of war to the United States. I mean, just getting the approvals necessary to do that. Travel passports, all of those things, money, finances, the logistics that happened. Amina ended up being sicker than advertised, and so all those things weighed into the big problem. But again, big problems many times have smaller problems that are attached to them. So that was really lesson 3 this week. Lesson 4 coming up is one that is really important as well. I hate to keep using that phrase, but this deals with fact versus opinion and bias. One of the biggest things, I believe, David's opinion, don't cite me on this, but one of the biggest issues that I see in critical thinking is bias. We all bring bias into our daily lives and everything that we do. And so one of the things that you have to be able to do is, first of all, understand that you have it, and then secondly, wade through it. And that's why I talk quite a bit about using peer-reviewed research versus just regular research. Now, does that eliminate bias in research? Absolutely not. It does not. But it meets a higher level of scrutiny. And so the questions this week, as you talk about fact versus opinion, or as you're trying to find solutions, better versus best. I had a boss one time who used to tell me all the time that better is the enemy of best. He was always looking for the best solution. versus a better solution. So, are you going to move forward to the best solution, or can you do it incrementally? And that's one of the questions that I ask this week. So, discussion one talks about don't sweat the small stuff. Well, you're going to see a video this week that talks about sweating the small stuff. So, I want your opinions on that, and perhaps some research that you can gather on that. The second thing has two truths. There's a book of truth that you're going to see where there are truths about decision making, and this particular author presents you with a couple of truths. One of the truths says get 80% of what you need and then act on it. And the other one says that, really any decision is better than no decision. And so if you begin to look at those, I want to know, do you agree with those? Or do you operate under the camp of really make sure that you get the best decision before you even get incrementally better decisions? So those are the two discussion board questions this week. And then the application this week talks about bias. As I mentioned, it's the number one issue that I see in critical thinking for me. Talk about, and what I want you to do is to really analyze this from a personal perspective. Don't use first person though, but look at it from that to be able to set up your third person discussions, work. And again, we live in a Facebook world. I unsubscribed from Facebook. And the reason that I did is because I just got really tired of people blatantly forwarding stuff that was obviously not true. And so you'll read something and you go, that's not true, but someone just blindly forwards it. And so I really got tired of that. So in this type of environment of fact versus opinion and bias and all those things, I really want to make sure this lesson is focused on that, because I believe, not that I want to develop in you a questioning spirit, but what I want you to do is to make sure that you don't just accept everything that the talking heads on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC tell you. That's for people who are intellectually lazy, and I don't want you to be that way, okay? So have a great week. I'll talk to you soon, and just keep studying hard. If you need me, make sure you contact me, all right? Thanks a lot.